number, they were the 16th president. Not as important as who's coming when, after who, what's going on during that time period. Can you tell me one thing that's important that happened during their presidency? And if it's a jam-packed presidency, can you tell me the most thing, the most important thing? Yeah, the facts are more important than the dates necessarily. Can you give me a batch of presidents in sequence based on what you remember from that era too? Try to clump them together in some way if you can. Now it starts to roll. Okay, so if you're not there, make sure you have them all down. Because I'm going to ask you to do one more thing for me, and then I'll kind of show you how I like to look at the different time periods through the presidents. Sometimes this just gives you a better frame of reference for what's going on during that time period, okay? If you look at this list, and I know some of you are still copying down, if I were to chunk the presidents into different groups, you can't chunk them like, I'm going to put Lincoln with, JFK, because they both fought for civil rights. Don't chunk them like that. But chunk them by time period. Where could I draw the line in this first group of presidents? And you can say thematically, yeah, these presidents were all sort of involved in, or what's going on in the country at this time with all of these presidents. So take a look at my chart really quick, okay, just for a second. Tell me, where would you draw the line? So Washington is in this first group, but who else joins him, and what's the theme of what's going on during that time period? What do you think? So how would you chunk them together, and what would be the title of what's going on during that time?
Revolutionary War.
I mean, that's good because it's happening pre-Washington, but you got to tell me now where you cut the line off. So, like, if your line is here, Tyler, Harrison, and Van Buren have nothing to do with the Revolutionary War, right?
Yeah, so I don't know.
Where do you cut it off? That's your new name for it?
Yeah.
So so what? Where am I going to cut off? Here? Like, at what point do we stop caring about the Constitution era presidents? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I need it's a good thoughts. I need, where do we cut it off and what do we call it? Okay, how about I give you where I cut it off and you tell me what we should call it, okay? I like to cut off right here. So this group of presidents right here, to me, Washington Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, they all kind of belong in the same category. What's going on during their presidencies? What would you call Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe? I like that, yeah. So these are my founding fathers, right? They're people who were, you said it, alive during the American Revolution, right? They were a part of those constitutional conventions. They were there when we fought the Revolution. If you go up to Mr. Madison's war, they fought the Second War of Revolution, right? The War of 1812. But to me, these are my founding fathers. Okay? So sort of chunking them in one group together, all right? Now, that leads us up to 1824, which is known as the era of good feelings, right? During Monroe's presidency, how great really was it, I guess, is yet to be seen. There was this corrupt bargain in 24, right, where Henry Clay swings the votes in the Senate for John Quincy Adams to become president. So Adams I'm going to leave as a standalone. And then I'm going to create a new category around Jackson. How far does it go, and what do we call it? What do you think? Give me some ideas. How far past Jackson? What do you call him? What's happening during the country as Jackson becomes president? Does Jackson have another couple guys up there that think a lot like him? What do you think? Crickets. I'm really good at wait time. I can just wait you out. Stronger will. Okay, so I go Jackson and Van Buren as sort of the guys that go together in the next group, and they're really the new Democrats, right? The Jacksonian Democrats. That's when we see a ton of movement out to the west. We start to see a split in what was the old Federalists, right? So you've got the Jeffersonian Republicans, and now you've got the Democrats, the Jacksonian Democrats, Southerners, Westerners, people who favor farming rights, rights of the individual and the people, but more of the hillbilly-ish, not like the rich Virginia presidents, right? Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, the land-holding, slave-holding, aristocratic presidents. This is a new kind of Democrat, isn't it? Jackson's a different dude. Van Buren is nothing more than his little puppet, right? Van Buren takes the fall for Jackson's issuing of the specie circular. All of a sudden, Van Buren's only going to last a term. Now, Harrison comes in, log cabin, hard cider campaign, right? Dies after 6 weeks. He doesn't get a category. My next category goes around these three presidents right here, Taylor, Polk, and Pierce. What do you call it? What do all three of those guys have in common, and what's going on during the country at that time? 1840s on into 1850. What happens in 1848? Largest land acquisition besides the Louisiana Purchase that the country's gotten. Yeah, talk to me. Mexican-American War, okay. And so what's, when we talk about like Oregon and the Mexican Cession and these other territories, what's really happening during this time period? That's exactly right. Very good. Manifest destiny, right? So this is where the country's really starting to expand its borders. We talk a little bit about the reform movements of the 1830s and 40s, right? Temperance, utopian societies, women's rights, things like that. But ultimately, that's what's happening while the country's expanding. All right, so Fillmore, Buchanan, Pierce. What's going on during their presidencies? There's my next bucket. What's happening in the 1850s? What's another name for it? I gave it to you yesterday. Compromise of 1850 kicks it off, okay? What else could you call the 1850s? Don't just say 1850s when you write. Say it was the decade of Christ.